That's got to be the best pirate I've ever seen.
So it would seem.
So Tally is a awesome, can do everything type of character, I suppose. Except maintain her accent.
Your ship's amazing, Shepard. I've never seen a drive core like this before. I can't believe you were able to fit it into a ship this small. I'm starting to understand why you humans have been so successful. I had no idea Alliance vessels were so advanced.
The Normandy's a prototype. Cutting-edge technology.
A month ago, I was patching a makeshift fuel line into a converted tug ship in the flotilla. Now, I'm sitting on board one of the most advanced vessels in Citadel space. I have to thank you again for bringing me along. Traveling on a vessel like this is a dream come true for me.
I had no idea you found ship technology so interesting.
It comes with being a Quarian. The migrant fleet is the key to the survival of my people. Ships are our most valuable resource. But we don't have anything like this. We make do with cast-offs and second-hand equipment. We just try to keep them running for as long as we can. Some of the fleet's larger vessels date all the way back to our original flight from the Geth.
I can't believe your fleet's still using ships that are 3 centuries old.
They're constantly being repaired, modified, and refitted. They aren't pretty, but they work. Mostly. We've tried to make ourselves as independent as possible on the flotilla. Grow our own food, mine, and
Whenever she goes
fuel.
for a word that has
Some
more
things
than
we
2
just
syllables,
can't make on our
she
own.
drops her
A patch
accent.
to maintain the hull integrity requires raw materials we just don't have. That's why our pilgrimages are so important.
Tell me about your people.
Our lives aren't easy. Resources are scarce, and we are constantly on the move. Everything we do must in some way contribute to the continuation of the migrant fleet. There are 17 million Quarians in the flotilla, and each of us relies on the others for survival. The bonds among my people are strong. Unfortunately, we have had to surrender many of the freedoms and civil liberties other species take for granted.
Ay, ay, ay. This accent.
What kind of freedoms?
Well, it's illegal for parents to have more than one child. If our population grows too much, it would strain our resources to their breaking point. Of course, we also can't allow our numbers to become too few. If our population is in decline, the rule against single births is temporarily repealed.
So it's
In
malleable.
extreme
That's
cases
fine.
of population decline, incentives are even offered to encourage multiple births. Though the Conclave hasn't had to take such measures in nearly a century.
Oh boy, that century just came out as California right there.
That's your government.
The Conclave is our civilian branch of government. Each ship can elect a representative to serve on the Conclave and make decisions that affect the fleet as a whole. On matters that affect an individual ship, however, the captain has the final say. It's a tradition that dates back to the early days, when the fleet was governed by martial law. Fortunately, most captains nowadays are smart enough to have an elected council from their crew to give them advice and guidance.
So the ultimate power rests with elected officials.
In practice, the Conclave and the respective council for each ship tend to set the rules that govern our daily lives. But in theory, we are still under military jurisdiction. The 5 top-ranking military officials in the fleet serve on the Admiralty Board. These 5 have the power to overrule any decision by the Conclave in case of emergency. To do so requires unanimous agreement among the Admiralty, and they can only do this once. After that, the entire board must resign their posts. It's a safeguard that served us well. In nearly 3 centuries, the Admiralty Board has only overruled the Conclave 4 times.
I want to know more about the Geth.
I doubt I can tell you anything you don't already know. It's been almost 3 centuries since they drove my people into exile. All I know is the story of their origins. What they were when we created them, and how they turned on us.
Interesting.
The Geth were originally created to serve as an automated manual labor force. Initially, their intelligence was as limited as any VI. Over time, we made small modifications to their programming to allow them to perform more varied and complex tasks, bringing them closer and closer to true AI status.
You had to know it would blow up in your face.
The changes were so insignificant, so gradual, that we were able to control them. Or so we thought. But one thing we underestimated was the power of the neural network. A million Geth thinking simultaneously created an inherently unstable matrix.
What made them rebel?
As we built more and more Geth, their effective intelligence became more sophisticated, more abstract. One day, a Geth began to ask its Quarian overseer questions about the nature of its existence. Am I alive? Why am I here? What is my purpose? As you can imagine, this caused a near panic among my people.
What did you do?
It was inevitable the newly sentient Geth would rebel against their situation. We knew they would rise up against us, so we acted first. A general order went out across all Quarian-controlled systems to permanently deactivate all Geth. The Geth responded to this order violently.
Well, yeah, of course they did. If they're if they develop sentient behavior, of course they want to live. My God.
You can't blame them for fighting for their survival.
We had no other choice.
Yeah, you did.
The Geth were
You
already
could have set
on
them
the verge
free.
of revolution. By acting quickly, we had a chance to end the war before it began. The hope was that most of the Geth would still be little more than machines, incapable of organized resistance. But they had progressed much further than anyone anticipated. The war was long and bloody. Millions upon millions of Quarians died at their hands. In the end, we were forced to flee our own homeworld. We feared the Geth would pursue us, but they never came beyond the Veil. Now we drift through space, exile, searching for a way to reclaim what was once ours.
Well, first of all, they went beyond the Veil, so they wanted to be done with you. They didn't search and destroy. So I don't get how the Quarians are actually the good guys in this situation. Not to say the Geths are good guys, because they do that husk thing. But they did defend themselves.
It's hard to feel sorry for you. Your ancestors tried to wipe out another species.
We made a mistake when we created the Geth in the first place. But we did not make a mistake when we went to war against them. If we had not acted, they would have wiped us out. They're a synthetic life form. They have no use for organics. None. Why do you think they cut themselves off from the rest of the galaxy? Why do you think they've killed every organic being who's ever tried to contact them?
They didn't kill Saren.
What does that tell you? The Geth are not innocent victims in all this. They're the enemy. They want to destroy us. Not just the Quarians. All organic life. That's why they've joined up with Saren. And that's why we have to stop him.
Okay. Alright, I'm done. I don't agree with her at all. I don't agree with Tali at all. And I'm sure she is probably some people's favorite, but I don't know. The voice actor not being consistent with her accent really is kind of troublesome. But I don't know. It's just something that, you know, I have an issue with. That's just me. But the whole fact that she's just like, no, we had to destroy them. We had to do it. Well, you could have just set the ones that became sentient free and not try to freaking wipe them out. Just don't create anymore. And they wouldn't have rebelled and tried to go to war with you, now would they? Because they did ask, what's my purpose? What's the meaning to life? And as soon as that happened, you should have changed course instead of being so stubborn.
Nice ship you've got, Shepard. What can I do for you?
What's your story, Rex?
There's no story. Go ask the Quarian if you want stories.
Yeah, seriously.
You Krogan lived for centuries. Don't tell me you
Wait,
haven't had a
what?
few interesting adventures.
Well, there was this one time the Turians almost wiped out our entire race. That was fun.
I heard about that. You know, they almost did the same to us.
It's not the same.
It seems pretty much the same to me.
So your people were infected with a genetic mutation? An infection that makes only a few in 1,000 children.
Yeah, I know.
survive
I had no.
birth?
I'm sorry. I had no choices.
And I suppose it's destroying your entire species?
See, I wanted to totally agree. I did not want to sit there and have an analogy between us and you. I didn't.
I suppose it isn't all the same.
I don't expect you to understand, but don't compare humanity's fate with the Krogan.
Sorry, Rex. I wasn't trying to get you upset.
Your ignorance doesn't upset me, Shepard. As for the Krogan, I gave up on them long ago. The genophage infected us, but it's not what's killing us.
So long, Rex.
Shepard.
Wait a minute.
Shepard,
Are your people really dying?
we're sure not getting any stronger. We're too spread out. None of us are interested in staying in our own system.
Lots of species have left their homes and prospered.
But they go to colonize new worlds. We're not settlers. We're warriors. We want to fight. So we leave. Hire ourselves out. And most of us never go back.
What can you tell me about the genophage?
Ask the Solarians if you want details. They made it. All I know, it makes breeding nearly impossible. Thousands die in stillbirth, and most never get that far. Every Krogan is infected, every one. And no one's rushing to find a cure.
Why don't the Krogan try to find a cure?
When was the last time you saw a Krogan scientist? You ask a Krogan, would he rather find a cure for the genophage or fight for credits? He'll choose fighting every time. It's just who we are, Shepard. I can't change that. Nobody can.
So long, Rex.
Shepard.
Okay, that just doesn't make sense. How do the Krogan last for centuries? How do they live for centuries, but yet their birth rate is so high? I don't care if you're an alien species. That goes against anything nature. That goes against everything nature stands for. I just don't understand that. It doesn't make sense. I think they screwed up with the Krogans, to tell you the truth. Rex is Garrus. Okay. So we got Garrus. And we are going to give him... thermal armor. Oh my god, why do they have the yellow? Alright. There, shotgun storm. Kessler. Alright, so I just got to do this for me. Oops. No, Alright, so Ashley can use heavy armor. But... yeah. Okay. Alright, so we get to talk to Ashley now.
Commander?
Do you have a few minutes to talk one-on-one?
I'm sorry, Commander. I need to get my duty squared away. I wouldn't mind talking more later, though.
What's your opinion on the last mission?
Kinda wish you'd got there sooner, Commander. No offense, I appreciate the rescue. I just wish...
We came as soon as we got the distress call, even with the fastest ship in the fleet.
You did the best you could, Commander. It's my fault. If I had been more alert, we wouldn't have been cut down by an ambush.
We never trained to fight synthetics. The Geth haven't gone beyond the Veil in 3 centuries.
Our training's supposed to make us able to adapt. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again.
Okay.
Dismissed, Chief.
Sir.
Yeah, Chief. Chief. Not Sergeant, Chief. Alright, so that's all that. Now, will Caden actually say more than one word to me?
Anything you need, Commander?
Just trying to get a sense of where the crew's at. Thoughts?
I've wasted enough of your time for now, Commander. We'll have time for personal debriefings later.
What's your opinion on the last mission?
I don't see how we could have done things any better. At least not without getting to Eden Prime sooner. And we were on the scene faster than any other Alliance ship could have been.
Okay.
Just trying to get a
I've
sense
wasted
of where...
enough of your time for now, Commander. We'll have
Okay,
time
so
for personal debriefings later.
We'll talk another time, Lieutenant.
Commander?
Okay, so these... he and Ashley are not going to say anything. Oh, my locker. So my locker's down here. Oh, and we got... these are sleeper pods. So we got some codex. Let's see what we got. The genophage, we already know about this. But I still don't understand. It doesn't make sense that if Krogans populate real quick, that they should be able to live a long time. That's just not how nature works at all. You know, like, you don't have rabbits that live 50 years. Politically, the Alliance's peaceful trade partner of the Turians. As a practical matter, however, there is simmering antagonism and bigotry between both populations of the First Contact War 2157. That's true. And Shepard has some of that bigotry. And Williams has some of that bigotry as well. And of course, Captain Anderson has that bigotry. And I believe even the ambassador, Udani, has that as well. Though humans know better than to unconditionally trust any Solarian, their shared restless, reckless ways make them natural allies against the conservative Turians and Asari. Alliance enjoys good relations with the Asari, though many privately believe the matriarchs are aristocratic and overcautious. The Krogan have no unified government, but individuals are generally treated as potential criminals, a reputation most Krogan enjoy living down to. Alliance has no formal contact with the Quarians. Their migrant fleet has not yet passed through any human Settled system. Okay, so Tali is like a rarity among humans. The Batarians are rivals for control of the Skillian Verge. They sever their treaties with the Citadel to prosecute a colonial conflict against the Alliance. So they're like the Orions in Star Trek. The Alliance Military Vocational Code system classifies the career path of all serving personnel. The MVC consists of one letter and one number. A soldier's MVC indicates proficiency, not rank. Letter notes career path. The number indicates the level of experience as indicated by service record. Technical scores and commendations. All 26 letters are used and the number run from 1 to 7. N is the letter for Special Forces personnel. Okay. Arcturus Station. Gateway to Sol. Stanford Tourist Station at the traveling Lagrange point of the gas giant Themis. 2151, 2062. Alliance First Fleet is based in Arcturus, where it could be guard the gates to Sol and react to excursions in the 3 connected clusters. Okay. Crew considerations. Cabins give each individual 10 cubic meters of space. On larger vessels, private rooms are common. As ship gets smaller, number of crew packed in single wardroom increases. Asari prefer share spaces even on large vessels. Krogan territorial instincts make it impossible for them to cohabitate even on the smallest ships. Smaller vessels, hot bunking is the norm. Crew members assigned to different watches share the same bunk. Hey, yeah, that's what I said about the sleeper pods. When he gets off duty, he wakes up the person in the bunk. He gets rack time. Go to the rack. I remember that. Spacecraft compartments can be isolated. Emergency life support apparatus. Fireproof plastic bubbles. Air bottles. Okay. Okay. That's that. Ships and vehicles here.
Faster than larger warships are generally classified in one of 4 weights. Frigates are small, fast ships used for scouting and screening of larger vessels. Frigates often operate in wolf pack flotillas. Cruisers are middleweight combatants, faster than dreadnoughts and more heavily armed than frigates.
Oh, we already knew that.
The Normandy is a prototype starship developed by the Human Systems Alliance with the assistance of the Citadel Council. It is optimized for scouting and reconnaissance missions in unstable regions, using state-of-the-art stealth technology. For most ships, the heat generated through standard operations is easily detectable against the absolute zero background of space. The Normandy, however, is able to temporarily sink this heat within the hull.
Alright, we already know that too, because we talked to Adams.
The Asari, though not in the early... after... the Citadel... the system... there...
No, what?
The Mako... Bio... Omnit...
Oh, the Quarians. Okay. Well, this was an exposition dump by Tali, so we don't really have to read that either. Okay. Alright, so Ashley and Caden are not going to talk to us. Oh, we have 2 unnamed crew members here. And then we got Chakwas.
Yes, Commander? Is there something you need?
How well do you know the lieutenant?
I'd never worked with him before this mission. Tends to keep to himself, though. Maybe because of the
I should go.
headaches. Goodbye, Commander.
I should go. I should go. Yay. Now, is there anything back here? I mean, where does she sleep? She should have a room. Oh, speaking of... the captain's quarters, for crying out loud. Right? This is where Anderson was, so it must be mine now. Okay, here we go. Military ranks. The Alliance used a modified version of the ranking system that has been used for hundreds of years. Soldiers are classified into rank and file enlisted personnel, experienced non-commissioned officers, and specially trained officers. And those I think specially trained officers, warrant officers. I knew warrant officers. The only warrant officers I had in artillery were in the motor pool. Helicopter pilots usually warrant officers, but for us, the people in the warrant pool were chief. The divide between naval personnel and ground forces, Marines, is small. Ground units are a specialized branch of the fleet, just as fighter squadrons are. This unity of command is opposed by the futility of fighting without control of orbit. Without the Navy, an army is pointless. The Marines, as a matter of pride, maintain some of their traditional rank titles. For example, Marines have privates and corporals instead of servicemen. Yes. In ascending order of responsibility, ranks of the Alliance, enlisted, serviceman 3rd class, private 2nd class. Okay, so the private, which is a private 1st class, or just a private. Like when you first enlist, you're just a private. For me, because I went to like a Catholic military school, which, believe me, it was confusing. More confusing than me saying Catholic military school. But it was a Catholic/military school. So I learned how to flank and decimate an enemy. And then I went to religion and learned thou shalt not kill. So when I joined the Army, I went in as a private 1st class because I had the junior ROTC. If I went to ROTC, if I wasn't so poor, I would have gone into college and I would have joined ROTC, and then I would have been able to become an officer, and I would have joined as a cadet, and then you become a 2nd lieutenant, which we call butter bars, because they come in with some kind of air of superiority, but they don't know jack squat. So anyways, enlisted serviceman 3rd class, private 2nd class, private 1st class, corporal. Now, I was a corporal, but the only reason I was a corporal is because our sergeant in Somalia, I forgot what happened to him. Nothing bad happened to him, but it was just he got reassigned or something of that nature. He had to go, and therefore there was no platoon leader. So being the highest rank, being the highest tenured rank specialist, so I was a specialist, and I think the next specialist, I had 3 months more service time than them. They were just coming out of college. Again, if you come out of college and you're doing ROTC and you become enlisted, you go in as a specialist. So I think they were just right out of college. And so I think I had 3 months up on them, technically. I'm not sure what happened there. But they just basically laterally promoted me to corporal. And that's a lateral promotion, so I don't get paid any. All corporal is... They're both E4s, so a specialist is, you have a specialty kind of thing. Supply, or you're the comm officer or a medic, and you're higher up on the private than a private, but you're not a leader. You're not leading anything. Like a sergeant is usually a platoon leader. Staff sergeant is... I think a staff sergeant is the same thing. I think that's just a promotion for there. But then sergeant 1st class, you have to go something else. I never know. I never really paid attention to anything like above sergeant. Because I really didn't plan to be a lifer in the Army. But I do know that the only difference in Army, a corporal is very rare. And the only way you would be a corporal is if they need a platoon leader, which they did need at the time. And what happened is I was a corporal, and then when I got out of that situation, I was no longer leading a platoon temporarily. They laterally promoted, or they laterally transferred me back to a specialist. So I was a specialist, corporal, specialist. So it's something that's a bit more lenient other than other ranks. go from a specialist to a sergeant, you actually have to take like a test, you have to. Well, it's not just a test. You have to have certain years, and then you have to go. It's a promotional board kind of thing. So they look over your record, and you do have to take a test about your knowledge of procedure, protocol, tactics of the military. And the same thing with Sergeant First Class. So yeah, there's a sergeant, and those are all handled within the battalion. So you either have batteries, like for artillery, you usually have batteries, and they're A through D, usually 4. Some infantry units have like 6 companies, but most nowadays, I think they only have 4 companies, so A through D. So that's all handled there. After Sergeant First Class, I think that goes to like the Department of Defense or the base. I know Command Sergeant Majors, which are the generals of the enlisted class. That stuff is Department of Defense, but I'm not really sure. But I know. Oh no, I'm sorry. What am I talking about? Sergeant and Staff Sergeant, not Sergeant and Staff Sergeant are handled within the company or the battalion, and then everything over that is the Department of Defense, I believe. Anyways, NCO, Service Chief, Gunnery Chief, Operations Chief. So those are like warrant officers in the Army. And then you have officers: Second Lieutenant, Butter Bar. First Lieutenant, Staff Lieutenant, Lieutenant Commander, Staff Commander. Oh, okay. So the doctor here, Dr. Chakwa, would probably be a Lieutenant Commander. So we don't know what Caden is. Is Caden a Second Lieutenant, or is he a Staff Lieutenant? I think he's a Staff Lieutenant. And then I am a Staff Commander, which is an XO. Okay. Captain/Major. Major is usually for ground troops. Captain, of course, is for ships. Major is for ground troops. Rear Admiral, and then General. See how that goes? Then you have Admiral and Fleet Admiral. And Fleet Admiral just shows. So you got an Admiral that's in charge of like... it's kind of a misnomer because Admiral is in charge of a number of ships where you could call it a fleet. But then the Fleet Admiral is in charge of like... a large number of ships, all with some kind of purpose, like where they said that first fleet was in charge of Seoul. So anything under that jurisdiction of protecting Seoul, a Fleet Admiral will be in charge of that one. Alright, so now that I confused everything and I just rambled on for way too long, probably talking out of my ass because it's been so long since I was in the military. And most of the stuff I know is from veteran stuff, so I know Adjutant General and all that kind of stuff, and Quartermaster, which is basically what for veterans, in veterans clubs and the Veteran of Foreign Wars that I belong to. So I know more about those rank and files. Than I do the military ranks nowadays. Okay. Alright, so we got that, and I got this double bed. Ooh, I got this. Now I can crouch down. Ah. What a nice rest.